You're dead to me.
Oh no.
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Not bad. You look in very good spirits. You look charged. You look vibrant. And there's a part of me that hates that. Let's dive right in.
We are into it. I always get thrown by you and and like how you shaved your head. Like every time I see, I'm like, who is this person?
Who is this guy from Breaking Bad that just got in front of
How
me?
have you been liking the? So how long has it been since you took down the hair?
Uh, Probably since July, I want to say. July, I think. Can you hear me?
Rogan talks about it all the time. How he felt so much better once he took it down. What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I really didn't care either way. It's just this is a little more convenient, and I just like having like a freshly cut hair. I think it's one of the things I've always liked is like that feeling like right after you get a good haircut, you feel good. So
Yeah,
when I shave, I get like a nice clean slate. I think it felt natural for me to shave my head at that point.
yeah,
You know, it wasn't like, all right, I have to do this big leap. It was like, this is normal for me to take down my hair.
yeah.
Because I basically had gone through the process of becoming okay with not having hair anymore.
Right. What age did your hair start to fall out? And at what point? I imagine there was like maybe a year or two there where you had a lot of anxiety around it. And then what point did like you were able to at least be at comfort with that fact?
So I started losing my hair in college. I have very fine hair, but I noticed it started receding a bit uh, during college, like in my helmet and in my hats and that kind of stuff. But I think everybody has that.
Mm-hmm.
But my difference was that like I noticed my natural like hair thinning, like it was receding. Like there wasn't too much in the middle that was going, but then basically like the 2 to 3 years after um, college, that's when I was like, okay, it's really starting to recede and go. And then it took another step, I think, probably in like 2014. So this is like I was probably like 26. And I grew my hair out long, and then I noticed that like those, it was thin even in the spot like in the middle. My obviously I had a little M going on or like a W, and then as I turned like 30, that's when I really was like, all right, I gotta take it down because it just looks, it just so is so imbalanced. Like as soon as I got my hair cut, my hair on my sides of my head would grow out, and
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't planning on doing any minoxidil or Propecia,
Yeah.
because of just so many terrible health implications with it. And I really didn't. I had some friends who had done hair transplant surgeries, but then you actually have to keep getting them. And
Oh God, I didn't know that.
and yeah, so if your hair keeps receding, that hair falls out, and then you don't have that. Like, so you can get like this replaced, but it'll keep going back.
Oh man.
Not to mention that if you wanted to do like the micro follicle one where you have to like take out one follicle at a time, there's a chance it doesn't take. It's a painful process and it costs tens of thousands of dollars. So it's not like a viable option for most people. And
Yeah.
again, like I was like, why would I want to do that? Some kind of semblance of like enoughness. And I think
Yeah. Exactly.
what I started to come to grips with was the idea that it didn't matter if I had hair or didn't have hair. Everybody always had a problem. It's like, oh, you should grow your hair out.
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. And then I grow my hair out. They're like, oh, we liked it better bald. I'm like, get out of here with that bullshit. So I kept looking to the external
Yeah.
for the answers, and it wasn't until I actually started looking within that I started kind of coming to terms and acknowledging the fact that like I really did have an attachment to my hair, and that I really had work to do when it came to that. But the lucky part for me was I didn't have a choice, so that's why I have it's like kind of a saving
Yeah.
grace because when you don't have a choice, it's much easier to make the decision.
Right. Because even today, like, or even like for me, I found myself checking in on my hair constantly. It's something that I'm always not worried about in a way, but like in the morning, you're presenting yourself in a certain way. So if your hair looks disheveled, that says something about you in how you're showing up in the world. So if you don't take the time to like set your hair and it looks like you just rolled out of bed, it's a certain way. Or if your hair is growing over your ears or whatever. And even then, like I'll find myself like checking my hairline consistently to be like, am I losing my hair? Is it receding back? Is this something that I'm going to have to like accept, like, along those lines? But
You know what that will definitely do?
make your hair fall out more.
Yeah, worrying about hair loss is probably the number one reason for hair loss.
Yeah, well, like you're sending messages to your body. I imagine that what causes your hair to probably fall out is stress.
Yeah. I've done a great deal of research about why hair falls out. And
Mm-hmm.
one of the major reasons is it has something associated with it's DHT, which is a hormone produced by the body. In particular, men produce more of it than women, but some men in particular will produce it in copious amounts and have the receptors for it. And what DHT is, it's called dihydrotestosterone.
Okay.
And when you convert testosterone into estrogen, free testosterone, and DHT, when you have a lot of DHT being converted, that is what will attack your hair follicles or interact with your hair follicles and cause those follicles to shut down.
Huh.
And then
Wow.
basically,
So this is DHT. That's this big link to it
yes. And so what
in your
happened,
body.
so what it also is associated with is prostate enlargement stage. So this is a red flag for me, especially. So once I got my blood work done and I saw that my DHT was high, I said, well, I have a history of prostate cancer. My father had prostate cancer. So my DHT was high. So basically what happens is your testosterone, instead of getting converted to free testosterone and then subsequently also into estrogen and DHT in proper levels, most of it is getting stolen by estrogen and DHT. And there's many reasons for that, but primarily it's probably a genetic factor.
Mm-hmm.
So my DHT was high. So I did a natural supplementation for DHT. It's called Prostacom.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what it does is it basically, blocks the absorption or blocks the conversion of testosterone into DHT. So theoretically, it'll shrink your prostate, but as a byproduct, it would potentially help with hair loss, and that's where Propecia came from.
Oh, that's right.
Finasteride was used to shrink the prostate in prostate cancer and prostate enlargement patients. And as a byproduct, they saw that these patients regrew hair and grew hair
Thicker.
spontaneously.
Oh,
So they used it off label for a little while, but what they did was they took it and they were like, wait a second, let's just get this FDA approved for hair loss.
wow.
So the issue with it though is that finasteride blocks all conversion of testosterone or most conversion of testosterone. So you have testosterone, which will get then converted into free testosterone, which is usable by the body, by the muscles, by etc. But the thing is if you're blocking that to stop DHT production, you're also blocking the production for free testosterone. So that's why
Okay.
you have a potential of losing libido, of muscle wasting. A lot of things can happen when you go on Propecia that are undesirable side effects, even though you might get some hair regrowth or at least minimizing hair loss.
Right. So it's like, oh, great, I have more hair and I'm attracting more women, but I don't even want to have sex with them because my libido's down.
Exactly. So it's definitely a trade-off. So
Damn.
I did a lot of research on that, and I was like, that's just not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I kind of just dealt with it. I styled my hair as best as I could,
Mm-hmm.
haircuts in particular ways so that I could, minimize the look of it. I think
Right.
I have a lady coming in right now. Let me hold on one second.
Maybe we pause and then we go in the closet.
Sure. Hi there. How can I help you? The DMV? Okay, you're going to go south on Congress, and then it's going to be on your left. It's the tax collection office. There's also a sign for like Amtrak and the railroad station. It's over there on the left, and it'll be on as you go in. So you're on So you're going to go south on Congress, and then you're going to get there's going to be a condominium complex called Alta Congress. It's huge. You can't miss it. When you start seeing that, get in the left-hand lane, and then you're going to make a left at that light. And you're going to go in left into the complex. Let me look real quick for you. No problem. I'll look it up. So you're going to go past Atlantic. I know, no problem. It's a little confusing. Yep. Tax collection.
That's where I made my mistake.
No, that's fine. No. It's completely. So the road is 501 South Congress Ave. So you're gonna it's the tax collection office. Yeah. That's where it is though. So you're gonna go past Atlantic, and then on your left hand side, it's gonna be the next light. Okay. So you're gonna go through Atlantic, and then on the next light, get in the left hand lane, turn in, and it'll be right there. You're very welcome. Absolutely. Safe travels. All right, T-Bone, how are we doing here?
Help me. I'm trying to find the post office.
Can you look at you with your burly arms? Got that burly arm paper, boy. Give me some good news.
Some good news.
Get back here, you piglet son of a bitch. All right, I think we're good. I'm at 20 megabytes per second now, so I think we're good to go.
All right, we're streaming. Okay, good.
We're streaming. We're good? You feel good about this?
I feel good. I was going to ask you a question. So we were talking about, where did we just finish off at? We were talking about testosterone. Oh, supplements. What supplements do you take nowadays?
Nothing. I think that I went down the rabbit hole far enough, and I realized that I didn't see any huge benefit from much of anything. I also did blood work along the way. The one thing that I did recently that I thought might have been a significant change was the it's called NP thyroid, which is a porcine or pig derivative thyroid supplement.
Okay.
But I didn't though I felt like some improvements, maybe here and there with sleep and that kind of stuff. There may be like a 10% improvement, and maybe that takes you from like suicidal to like feeling not suicidal, which is significant for some. But for me, the biggest change has been mindset, meditation, and the concepts that I'm finally like buying into and following through with.
So like that inner skeptic or that inner judge is like quieted down and allowed you to accept these things more because of this supplement in a way?
No, sometimes you got to go through it to understand that it wasn't the thing. Wasn't the external, okay. Wasn't the supplement. So I think objectively by doing the blood work, I had no changes in my blood work. So it's like I didn't boost my thyroid hormone by taking this stuff. The changes that I had were placebo, so to speak, but it was the fact that I started implementing changes in my lifestyle and my behaviors that started moving me in the right direction, so that I felt better, so I had more energy, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. So it was almost as if this MP3, the placebo, in a way, was able to help you to buy into those. And then, but then when you see
some momentum.
Yeah, it gave you some momentum. But then when you saw that the blood work really didn't impact it, you're like, oh shit, I don't even need this thing. I just need to follow through with what I was doing. Yeah, it was you.
Yeah,
that's great.
And I think that's cool because and there was a part of me that said, I hope my blood work doesn't come different, because I'm like, it was me that did this, not the pills.
Yeah.
And I think nowadays, especially when we listen to all the stuff about antidepressants, and I mean, I've read books and books and books and listened to podcasts after podcasts about what depression and anxiety and mental health disorders really are. And we're starting to understand that when you look at just the chemicals in the brain, that's only part of the picture. So if you're saying, oh, I have a chemical imbalance, that's why I'm schizophrenic, or not schizophrenic, that's why I'm depressed, that's why I'm anxious. It's not the whole picture, because you're not seeing what's actually maybe causing that to happen. So if you're like,
Right.
oh, all right, so you're depressed. When's the last time you went outside? I can't remember. Have you been eating well? No, not really. Like, okay, so is it the chemical imbalance that causes the depression, or is it your lifestyle habits that are causing the chemical imbalance?
Right.
Right.
Well,
And
yeah,
what happens? And what happens if you start changing your habits? Do you still feel that way?
yeah. Well, that's, I think, the biggest benefit to listen to Rogan's podcast at this point is he drills home that point pretty much every podcast, is he ends up going into moving, eating better. Like, let's utilize those methods first before we jump right into a pill. And maybe like maybe it's a chemical, and maybe that pill allows you to have that buy-in a way, and then create those habits, and that way
Yeah,
you can start creating
you
momentum
need
and
a
then
carrot to
creating change.
dangle. Or you just,
Right.
yeah, like you said, you need some
Yeah, it's
momentum
like,
in the right direction. So like, you know how some people like they buy a new pair of shoes and they're like, oh, these are the best workouts I've ever had. I'm like, okay, well, what were you doing before versus now? Like, oh wow, I've worked out every day this week instead of being sporadic because of like now I'm inspired because of these shoes. So
right.
I really do believe in little things like that getting you in the right direction because it allows you to get outside of your story and allows you to start implementing some decent habits and then just letting that kind of take over for you.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing you said. It stops the story,
Yeah.
or it gives you like a little bit of a reprieve from your story. So
Yep.
interesting you said the thing about the shoes, because the same thing with a new pair of pants or just like a new gym outfit. You just feel so much better. Like, got my new gym clothes on. This just feels good. And I think it's a idea of, man, I'm looking good, have that confidence going, and you're just in a better flow in your workout too.
Agreed. And I think this goes to a deeper conversation about like the costumes that we wear in life. You know what I mean? And you know, if we have judgment on those things, but if at the end of the day they improve our overall well-being and allow us to access a layer of ourselves that we wouldn't otherwise be able to access, I think that's super important. I'm so exhausted from a workout that I just did, honestly, too.
What was the workout that you just did?
I did it with my girlfriend in the class, so it was pretty tough.
What was it?
Just some intervals on like the assault bike with some rowing and that kind of stuff. So, yeah, no excuses. Just play like a champion.
What inside you, like, are you judging that you don't have as much energy, or
No, I'm just a little wiped.
yeah, just
No,
like
not
feeling
not
like,
too bad. I'm not even really in resistance. I think it's just fun to play around with just being feeling cranky for a second and
yeah,
yeah, I think speaking of which, you know, I think that especially comedians get kind of addicted to those kinds of ways of saying things and doing things, and it becomes so identified with them. You know what I mean?
right, just shitting on everything.
Yeah, exactly. And I think for me in particular, that became an identity for me for a very long time, and it gives you a particular feeling.
Right. It's you ever seen the South Park episode when Stan just sees shit everywhere?
No.
Oh my God, you need to watch that episode, because that's exactly what you're saying. So Stan just starts seeing like everything in his world as just shit. Just everything's just shit. Like, people start forming poop. The shows that he's watching is just pieces of shit talking to one another, and
That's
they're
a
just
pretty cool idea.
spewing
Spewing more
So,
shit.
yeah, and the idea is that just Stan is a skeptical asshole, or I forget what the exact term that South Park goes with, but you go back and watch that episode, because I think that's a thing that we fall into at times. It's fun shitting on things, and it's fun, but if you fall into it too much, then it
I think
becomes
what happens is I think you have to understand, like, what's the feeling that after you get when you shit on things? Is it like an expansive feeling, or is it kind of like more restrictive, or you need more of it?
I think for a lot of people, you need more of it, because, well, I imagine a lot of people do it for a laugh to start out with, but then when you start to if you're shitting on things as a way to make you feel more than, that's when you're running into a really big issue.
Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And to piggyback on that is, like, imagine this is something that if you really want to feel good is talk good behind people's back.
Oh God. That's another one of my principles that I really strive to not do, but sometimes it just feels so good.
What I'm
And
saying is, you heard what I said, though.
say that again.
I said, talk good behind people's back.
Oh shit! I immediately jumped to talk bad behind
Of
someone's
course you
back.
did.
Oh
That's why I
shit!
said that.
Yeah, talk good behind someone's back almost makes you feel better about yourself. Well, feel
Yeah.
good,
Well,
right?
it makes you feel good. I mean, obviously, if you, in the beginning of it, when you do it the first few times, you're like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I'm not getting anything out of this. But when you let go of the expectation of what it should feel like, and you just kind of like, I kind of thought of something, an analogy today. You ever have a floater in your eye?
Uh-huh. Oh
And
yeah.
every time you try to see it, it moves because it's
Mm-hmm.
in front of your eye. You
Oh
just
yeah.
gotta feel that it's there.
Yeah.
You can't actually look at it because when you try to look at it, it moves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that's kind of like that beautiful feeling when you actually create some expansiveness. You can't look for it, but you'll know it's there. You'll feel it.
Yeah.
So when
And
you go ahead.
and I immediately connected with that when you were talking about something good behind someone's back. I almost, as soon as I thought of it, I started to feel the openness in my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was talking about talking shit behind someone's back, I felt like the close offness in my chest. So it's really something that for me is something I feel like more in my chest.
You're absolutely right. And I think that's the important part about that is getting in touch with that feeling in order for us to really start guiding our decision making. Is this because it's checking boxes? Is this because this is what I've done before? Or is this because I'm living in the moment and this expands me?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm just thinking of, not thinking of, but I was listening to a podcast talking about the idea of gossip and the idea of talking behind someone's back. And it was as a tool for, because we're hunter gatherers and we're in groups, and it was a way to almost keep the person in charge in check. So like the person in charge wouldn't rule the group, because the group would be able to, if a person wanted to be, take charge of the group and run shit and do things that were evil, by the group being able to gossip with one another, they could kind of connect with one another and overthrow that ruler. So like gossip is like almost an innate evolutionary trait that we developed in order to make sure that we don't get like ruled over.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Where does that come from?
Like, but where was the podcast?
Yeah.
Fucking can't remember. They all get smushed together.
Yeah. But I see some definitely some truth in that. However, like I think I thought of something the other day because someone that I know I was having a conversation with, and you know I talk about how we're just love and we're just this energy that, you know, kind of emanating from the universe. I know it sounds kind of airy fairy, but their rebuttal is like, well, we're kind of just this biochemistry. You know what I mean? We are evolution. We are this, we are that, we are the other thing. And I go, that's a belief, you know, because if you look at that, every 10, 15, 20, 30 years, 100 years, we come up with new biology to explain things. Right? So that's just kind of what we know now.
Everybody's agreeing on right now.
Exactly. So if you said 300 years ago, you know, a person who was different, like a woman who was free speaking, she'd be a witch. And biologically, she would be burned at, you know, like there was something wrong with her and she'd be burned at the stake because she was like possessed by a demon. Right. Whereas we know now that that's a horrid treatment for a person. And then, you know, going back to the Stanford professor, his name is slipping my mind right now.
Oh, this is where they did the experiment where they gave the kids and the Stanford experiment.
No.
Oh.
Sapolsky.
Yeah,
Robert Sapolsky talks about how right now the way we treat the mentally deranged and those who are violent and et cetera, the way we treat them now in 100 years, we're going to look back and go, what the hell were we thinking? Because they're just being brought up with improper input and software, which causes them to be reactionary, which causes them to think illogically because of the lack of development of the prefrontal cortex. Right. So we think that we are our biology, but I believe that we're much more than that. I believe that we're this kind of infinite Superman, Superwoman that we've referenced before. If we start letting go of that old story, that we are just love, we are just this moment. And I think that there's actually biological reference to that as well. When we look at how we develop from as a baby. Our number one inclination as a baby is to look in our mother's eyes and to feel that lock in and love, that oxytocin that gets produced. So I think there is biological evidence that would support the fact that we are biologically wired to love.
Yeah.
However, we obviously are biologically wired to fear as well, because we also have this innate drive to avoid snakes and heights and those kinds of things. But I think balance is the key. And in a world where we don't have nearly as much things to be afraid of, our monkey mind and our evidence-based mind and our imaginary mind has to create scenarios for us to have something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
But we cease to use our imagination to create possibilities that we can fall in love with and create growth from and actually be connected from.
Yeah. What I've been really encouraged by lately is this combination of the two fields of science and what we want to call it the more spiritual. They're coming together, and science is beginning to produce evidence of what these spiritual things are. And it reminds me of like science can take us all the way back to the Big Bang, and we can get it back to the universe, but then we kind of run out of the ability to go through from there. And I think that's where we're going with bridging the gap between science and spirituality, is that we're getting to a point, but then we run into these moments where you can't explain the unexplainable. But at least the two sides are talking to one another, and that's giving a lot of people a lot of hope and a lot of optimism, as opposed to before, when neither side was talking to one another. I felt like mass groups of people were blocked off from a way to heal or a way to grow. For instance, somebody who is given a diagnosis that they have a certain disease that's incurable. It doesn't have to be life or death, just a disease that's going to be incurable. But now, I don't know if you've read You Are the Placebo, but through You Are the Placebo, not even utilizing, it's like more utilizing your mind to heal yourself. They're showing evidence to that you can use your mind to heal yourself, like through meditation and everything like that. It's still ongoing, and there isn't anything that's 100%, but at least that little bit of optimism and a little bit of hope for people who might have been handed these diagnoses.
I think that's I would align with that, and I would find a lot of truth in that. And to kind of piggyback off of that, when you cut your arm and you put Neosporin on your arm, does the Neosporin heal you?
No, like you already have the innate ability to heal that already.
Exactly. Neosporin is there maybe to keep things a little bit lubricated so it doesn't dry out. Maybe has some antibiotic effects because naturally you're in an environment where you're coming into contact with all sorts of bacteria. Right. However, whether it's a broken leg, a cut, cancer, et cetera, what you're really trying to do is utilize your body's own mechanisms to heal yourself.
Right.
So if we look at medicine as in we are our own healer, we start to think about new strategies to heal.
Right. Well, this kind of goes right back to where we started this conversation, is using something in the external that allows us to use our internal. And, the idea of what was the supplement you were taking again?
NP thyroid.
NP thyroid. So the NP thyroid being the external that allows your internal mechanisms to start gaining that momentum. And I think that's a lot of what medicine is. It allows us to because we're so fucked up in believing in ourselves because we have that story that we have to overcome, and we have that gunky windshield that we have to look through, that we have to rely on something in the external to start getting that momentum forward.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The use of the mind to create negative scenarios is, I think, the biggest malady of society today. That's our biggest illness.
Anxiety, depression.
We
The worry of the future. Yeah.
And when we identify with those ideas, because a lot of people will be like, oh, I have depression, I have anxiety, I have bipolarism. If you identify with those beliefs, you then have to create evidence of it.
Confirmation bias.
Exactly. So you have to create scenarios and evidence and actions and thoughts that allow that belief to survive, because for the belief to survive, it needs evidence. Yeah. So the only way that you're going to create a new story is by taking a look at the false story and then following through with new evidence, new actions to prove to your nervous system, as we said before, that you are not that story, that you are any story that you want to be. And if that means you want to be the best cook in the world, then you're going to have to follow through with a new story. You want to be a great parent, you're going to have to follow through with a new story. You want to lose weight, you're going to have to let go of the old story and follow through with a new story.
Yeah.
And for some people, it's becoming the infinite. It's becoming our absolute potential, whatever the hell that means.
Right. It's just for every person, it's going to be different.
Yes.
Last week I was listening to a podcast, and I might dive into his book, but this guy wrote this book called The Alter Ego Effect, and this guy, Todd Herman. And the idea being that in order for you to unlock the potential in that field that you want to do better in, for instance, he's dealing with a baseball player who's having a tough time at the plate. And he's like, I want to get stronger so I can hit better. He's like, all right, well, before we go there, why don't you imagine somebody, he actually gives him, he's like, do you know who Paul Bunyan is? And he's like, yeah, like the guy who chops down trees. He's like, I want you to do, overnight, I want, like, your assignment is to go and read all about Paul Bunyan, and then we're going to have a conversation. That's and he's like, cool. Yeah. So he's like, all right, the next day, comes back to him, he's like, all right, so I read everything about Paul Bunyan, and boom, boom, boom. Now, if you imagine yourself as Paul Bunyan at the plate, would you have to worry about being strong? And he's like, no, I would be the strongest person in the world. He's like, yeah, exactly. So that's going to be your alter ego. I want you to, when you're at the plate, I want you to tap into Paul Bunyan. And how we're going to do this, I'm going to give you a little totem. You're going to wear a little flannel, and you're going to put this piece of flannel underneath your baseball belt. And his dad calls him 2 weeks later. He's like, I don't know what you said to my son, but since you've talked to him, he's 23 for 23 and he's hit 3 home runs. And it's, once again, it's this idea that that totem that of the flannel allowed him to connect with the Paul Bunyan, and the thought and the trying was no longer there, and he was just allowed to be Paul Bunyan.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. We don't have to remind ourselves to breathe. We don't have to remind ourselves to grow hair. Some of us, we don't have to remind ourselves to, digest. It's all a part of us. It's just the fact that we've hijacked our natural being for some kind of semblance of control.
Yeah. And
because of maybe an incident or two that's given us some bad programming.
Right.
And we are one decision away. And I think that's the most important part, is we are one decision away from changing our lives.
Huh.
Can you think of a time, Tyler, where you had a decision where you changed your life? In terms of rewriting your story.
Yes, for sure. It was laying down, this was, I guess, a year and a half ago, November, not this past November, but the November before.
So November 2017.
Yeah. And I was on, seeing my physical therapist, for another back injury. And it was just in that moment, just deciding, I'm not going to compete in CrossFit. And then I went and had Thanksgiving out at Evans, and we had an opportunity to talk to you, and it just kind of solidified that decision. And from that point on, that moment of to decide to no longer compete CrossFit, the amount of growth I've had individually has been so substantial. I couldn't even compare it to a point in my life where I've grown and transformed into a different person from that decision.
It's very interesting that how so much of our growth in our life comes from letting go of something that seems like it's our life,
Right.
right? Like, oh, I am this. It's like, okay, what if you let go of that? Well, then I would let go. Then that would be my life would be gone.
Right.
But
It'd be death.
we can't we'd be death, but we can't see where we could possibly go. And the more times you do it, though, the more reference you have to say, oh, it's normal now for me to let go of this. The first few
Right.
times you're scared, you're sad, you're going through this whole process. But to this point in my life now, I'm like, I'm looking for things to leap at because it's normal for me.
Right. It's like, I'm okay burning it down.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. So I'm sitting down with coffee this morning with one of my clients who's a brilliant young man. He's in chiropractic school. He knows more about training and PRI, and he's just he's a genius, for lack of a better word. His emotional IQ probably needs some work. He needs to train that a little bit more. He naturally is just brilliant, but his EQ is we can improve on it, and he knows that as well. But we were sitting there, and he went out to OPEX and worked with James for a week as shadowing, and basically they invited him out there to as an apprentice almost for a week and kind of see things and mentorship kind of thing.
Cool.
And I'm sitting down and we're talking about this stuff. I'm like, yo, what if we pitch this idea to James? And we went to this whole thing. And I was like, I know we could do this and this and this and this and this and da, da, da. And I'm like, all right, so what you're going to do is you're going to go ahead and write down this part of the proposal. I'm going to write down this part of the proposal. And you know what's a great idea? I'm going to make a video, and we're going to talk about it. We're doing in a video how we can improve this, this, and this. And we're going to show how there's value to it and how by doing this, it's actually improving their business.
Okay.
I would have never done that before. That's
right.
normal for me now. And to follow through. I'm like, okay, cool. We're going to meet on Sunday, and then we're going to review all this stuff. Whereas most of the time it's just like, oh, here's a really cool idea. Never going to follow through.
Right.
So when you have come up with a cool idea, you map it out, you take that first leap, and then you follow through with that next step, you now become that normalizes things. And now you're dangerous in terms of like creating new possibilities.
Yeah.
But you need to go through it a few times.
Yeah. That's such a good point. In this idea of idea and implementation.
Yeah.
Implementing, it's like, I think I run into this problem of accumulating knowledge, another book to read, another podcast to listen to. But what is actionable from that? And more, I'm trying to almost dial back on taking things in and putting more effort into implementing, putting things out. And you're right. It's every time you do it, it gets more comfortable, less resistance, less clunky, and it's a smoother process. And there's more confidence in the process. There's less judgment. There's less skepticism, and you can really build off of the momentum of that idea, and not just let it be an idea. Go through with it.
Precisely.
Yeah. Since we started podcasting, do you think that you've had has this process allowed you, or have you found any, like, through these conversations, has that been, because I've seen within you, I don't know if it's like this, like, New Year's resolution, and that gives you an opportunity to then create a new story for yourself. But do you feel right now like a momentum that you haven't felt before? Because I see that in you.
I definitely feel profoundly different, especially in the last 2 or 3 weeks. In the past, I would get into these manic modes where I felt great, and I would find subconsciously I get attached to that, and then when it starts to fade a little bit, I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong, and then I go into a fight or flight mode. Right now, my biggest shift has been when something does come up, my knowing is that I am just love, and I am enough.
Oh.
And that what I'm doing is I'm experiencing something coming up and leaving. That's been my biggest shift over the last month or so, even since starting this podcast, maybe the second podcast. Some of it has been meditation based, and a lot of it has also been action based and just following through with things and letting go of the need to know the outcome. That has been my biggest shift. And right now it's just a matter of like, I honestly don't even have time to meditate now because I'm doing so much creation and following through with my calling right now. Like the content that I've been making is phenomenal. I thought I'd never be able to make this type of content, and I thought all the things that I've done before were meaningless. And now that I find that I'm making this content, I'm like, oh wow, there's meaning behind the last 8 or 9 years that I've been creating videos, because now I have that experience and I have that knowledge and practice of doing videos. The purchases that I've made, I bought audio equipment and lighting, and I'm like, oh wow, there's a reason behind this because I made this video. There's all this content that I used to film and just like, I'm never going to use any of this stuff. I'm like, oh great, now this is content that I can use. And it just takes that momentum, just a little bit of that push. And then all of a sudden it starts to roll downhill, because right now I'm revamping the website. I'm going to be putting together a nutrition guide to create some rapport and some trust in brand awareness. And I'm going to be sending that out. And I have some ideas about a retreat in Belize that I'm actually going to be creating in the next year. I have so much really cool things, and all these things are scary, but I know that from points of references before, the scary is okay. Like I am so much bigger than this scary. And once I step through, it becomes normal.
Yeah.
Right. It's going to be normal for me to be charging $5,000 per head to go to Belize for a 1-week retreat.
Yeah. 100%.
Now that is where I want to be. Where I am right now is not that. Okay. But if I understand that I am that person right now, what do I do to convince my nervous system that that is who I am?
You keep delivering unbelievable content.
Exactly. So
and you keep speaking to the people who you want to serve. You keep speaking to the principles. You keep speaking to all of this work that you've done and learned throughout the past 9 years, and what has benefited you the most and where you've seen the most change in people. And you take that, you put it in a way that is digestible and gives people the most actionable way to implement it within their own lives so they can change. And you just continue to speak that message. And for people who want to, who resonate with that message, you deliver that to them. That's it.
So when you say that, how does that make you feel?
It makes me feel open, and it makes me feel confident. And I believe, because I'm feeling the same momentum. The past 3, I just started posting to Instagram this week. They've probably been like the 4 most commented posts I've had.
Yeah.
Over the past couple of years. Like, I've had more people commenting now because I'm so dialed in what the pain points of the people I'm speaking to are. And I'm more confident in myself in being the person to help them address those pain points.
And to add to that, I'm no longer writing for someone.
Yes.
I'm writing for myself. I'm like, what do I feel in my heart? And I'm just going to let my fingers go.
Yeah.
Right. So if I feel passionate about something, and one of the posts I did the other day is I'm too old to train. And I was like, all right, instead of thinking, what do they want to hear? What do I know?
Yeah.
And just write that down. And it came so easily. It's just so effortless. And I think the biggest thing that anybody who's listening to this podcast is like, when you do the work, shit gets easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, what do I know? And then there's also anytime you put out a piece of content, you immediately, for me at least, I imagine the people going over it with a fine-tooth comb and pointing out the errors and like, hey, that's not true for everyone, or that may not work for this person, or I know the exception to the rule to that. But as soon as I start to focus on that, I know I'm in the wrong place.
Yeah.
I know I need to get my I know that inner judge is just there, and I need to focus on, listen, the person I'm speaking to, that's not the person I'm speaking to. That person who's going with a fine-tooth comb and look for my errors, I am in no way going to be able to help that person. So I can't worry about them. I have to worry about the person who I know that needs to hear my message and needs my help at this point. So what do they need to hear, and what in my story and my truths connects me with them? And as soon as I start to write that and not be concerned with the whatever police you want to call them,
Yeah, they're not PC police. It's more of like the social justice warriors.
The social justice vocabulary police,
Yeah.
proper grammar police, whatever you want to label these people who are being critical of your work. You can't write to them. You have to write to what just everything I said. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, but to maybe make some awareness about something, are you really not writing to them? Because I believe that we're all on a spectrum of finding our own truth, and I think that truth is collective. So there's a piece of everyone that you are writing to, and some people are more connected to that piece than others.
Mm-hmm.
However, if I read something that you write and it gets me pissed off, or it makes me angry, or it makes me frustrated, or it compels me to write something into the comments, know that what they're really commenting on is their own uncomfortability with the spots of them that they haven't come to grips with yet.
Yeah.
Because if you're coming from your heart and this energy that I believe is collective and I know is collective, then it's in all of us, and you are speaking to everybody. So think about that too. Even in the things that I post, if someone doesn't comment, they're still going to get, if they see it, they're still being affected by it, whether they know it or not, because I'm just calling very silently to that spot deep inside of them that goes, hey, I got you. Like I connect with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a question. Did you do the first workout of the Open?
Yes.
And how did that, how do you handle that, doing the Open and what you believe in? Because I did the first Open workout as well, and I found I had a very difficult time dealing with doing the workout and what I believe in.
What do you believe?
I believe that comparison is like my biggest weakness. Like I love to compare myself to others.
Is that who you are?
And is that who I am? No. That is not who I am. I am not my ego.
So right now, like you said, doing the Open may not be the best thing for you, because at this point, you're still looking at, loving, and allowing to be the comparative part of you.
Right. So maybe I'm having a tough time understanding, that's the point. Like I'm searching, what is the right way? What is the right way to do these workouts? What's the proper way to do these workouts? What's the proper mindset you should be in? What's the healthy mindset you should be in when doing these workouts?
Okay. That person or that part of you asking that question is the part of you that's going to have to die.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity. As soon as those things come up and all those questions are there, you go, oh, wait a second. We have the perfectionist coming back. We have the person who wants to check the boxes and do everything the right way. Cool. That's allowed to be there. Let me just feel that for a second. Let me breathe into that. And it's allowed to be here, because as soon as you allow it to be there, it'll go. And then then most likely you're going to be left with your truth. And for where I am right now, I'm like, I just do the workouts because everybody else is doing the workouts and it's great for the community. And I want to have fun. And there's nothing that says that I'm not allowed to have fun during a workout, even though it might be painful. And if it's not fun for you, don't do them. If it's a chance to connect and maybe find something about yourself and have growth, great. But if it's a big, fat, underlying ego underneath it, I would question the actions, because you're putting pennies into a piggy bank that's just perpetuating your old story.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. I think there's part of me, like you said, there are shades of that, but ultimately underneath that ego is a little bit too it needs to be checked more before I continue to do more workouts. It's just
Okay.
the beast is still need to be tamed.
You got to feast for beasts if you really want to. So, I mean, what are you waiting for?
I guess it's the um I guess it's the element of like, how do you compete without the idea of comparison?
Okay. So, let's use your imagination and your brain to create a scenario where you have the outcome that you want, because all you can imagine is all the scenarios in the past that have brought fear, anger, anxiety, comparison, right?
Right.
So could you, real quick, you're doing 19.2 this week, I imagine.
It depends. If it's like a barbell movement, I probably won't. But if it's
Okay, so
something that's
so
like
say
body
it's
weight and dumbbells,
7 minutes of burpees.
perfect. I'm
Okay,
on board.
so you just got done with 7 minutes of burpees, and you finished middle of the pack in your gym.
Oh my god, that'd be death.
Okay, so this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
You finished middle of the pack in the gym. It felt horrible. You were dying the entire time.
Yeah.
The music was terrible.
Uh-huh.
Everybody was cheering for you.
Uh-huh. Oh god.
And you just got done with the workout. Yet, you are so freaking happy. And you are so satisfied that you did the workout. I know it's a stretch, but can you describe a little bit about what happened?
Knowing
Because all the externals are not what you want it to be.
Right.
But that is not something you can control. All you
Right.
can control is what?
Your effort and attitude.
So, tell me, how did it go? And by the way, there's no right or wrong way of doing this.
Yeah.
You just let the faucet open and just let it pour out.
So rephrase it one more time so I can put my
So Tyler,
I'm,
we just got done with the 19.2. How did it go? It looks like you got a smile from ear to ear right now. How crazy is that? You just finished middle of the pack. In all intents and purposes, you should be really pissed off right now. Why are you smiling?
Because I gave it everything I had, and that's all I can do.
Yeah, keep going.
And
what does that feel like right now?
I gave it everything.
And where do you feel it? Because I imagine there's some resistance to that statement.
Yeah. The challenging part is when we have these moments where I'm trying to imagine and give it, is like, as soon as I go to silence, like my brain just starts immediately thinking about like people listening.
Okay, so go ahead and talk about it. Go ahead.
So as soon as you ask me this question, and then you're like in this scenario, I have like a lot of judgment against myself, and I'm like, it's like I can't get the quiet. There's no quiet. It's like immediately my brain just starts saying, all right, what's the answer I could give? Like, what's the right answer? What's the answer that people want to hear? And that noise is just I can't turn it down. It just starts going, what's the right answer? What's the right answer? What do people want to hear? What do people want to hear? And I just can't get the quiet to like let that.
So what if you allow that to be there?
That's, yeah.
What if you just right now you said, I invite you. It's okay for you to be here, Mr. Perfectionist. And you just listened and you felt that.
It feels like I'm forcing it.
Okay. And that's okay too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It feels like I'm I'm forcing it. And like this, I keep on telling myself like this setting is too challenging to do it because there's so much pressure in this setting to want to say the right thing. Like if I were maybe like in a different scenario where like I knew people weren't listening and it was like just us and had this other environment that we're in, like, and I had like 15-20 minutes to just sit and be quiet and let those thoughts kind of settle down, then I might be able to like, then I can participate. But like the idea that like we're against the clock and the idea that it's, you know, people might not want to like once there's like silence over as I'm doing this, then it's just like, what is there? And like we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. But it's challenging for me to like get that moment where I can let those things flow through me in that.
And how do you know this last 2 minutes of you talking wasn't insightful, inspiring, all the things that you really want?
Well, what I wanted before this was like, you said to me, like, okay, there's a scenario.
I wanted you to put that scenario together, but sometimes you got to clear the hose.
Right.
So if that comes up for you, why can't that come up?
Yeah.
Like just because you're looking for gold doesn't mean that you didn't find $10 million sitting there. You were panning for gold, and then a bag of money fell down the fucking river, and you go, no, I'm looking for gold. I can't have that $10 million.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that's a broader message for everybody. It's like your intention is one thing that gets you in the game. But if you're looking for one outcome, you limit yourself.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what the universe is going to unfold for you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, for instance, like, I got done with workout 1 and immediately I was just like, I didn't go out. Like, I didn't give that workout everything I had. That was what my reaction was.
Yep.
And, but then I was like, am I in the position right now to give that everything I had? And then to be honest with myself, I was like, no.
Okay. So let's go back even further.
Uh-huh.
What was the first thing that came up when you did that workout? After it was done, you said something.
As soon as it got done, like I noted the amount of rounds that I had, and it didn't measure up, and I was like, I knew I could have pushed that harder.
Okay, good. Okay, so there's a part of you that came up that says we didn't do as well as we should have.
Right.
And what was your response to that?
I knew I could have pushed it harder.
Oh, good. So an inner monologue, and now you're battling the situation that you created.
Right.
Okay. So you, again, are putting pennies into the piggy bank that says you're not enough.
Yeah.
So an alternative to that would be, man, I really didn't do as well as I wanted to. And I love that.
Mm.
And you just allow that to be there.
All right.
Because
like
realist,
like that discomfort.
That discomfort, that judgment. You're just going to let that be there.
Yeah, it's like almost like a tightening in the solar plexus. And you're just like, all right.
And guess what? Here's the cool thing. When you do that, it creates space.
Yeah.
Because imagine what you could do if you didn't have that little guy hanging on you as you did workouts.
Yeah.
Do you think you would be free to choose to have fun during a workout without having that guy hanging on you the entire time?
Yes, but I think before my workout, I went into this first workout as ego. And if I went into the next workout as have fun and just like try to connect and just breathe on every moment and push as hard. Well, I guess it's like what I look for.
What's your intention?
I'm doing this workout, what's my intention? Am I trying to like put myself? Because to me, what signifies like giving myself like my all is putting myself in the most amount of pain. But if I put myself in the most amount of pain, that might not get me the best score on the workout.
Exactly. So I think especially as CrossFitters, we have this false belief that if it doesn't hurt, like I'm going to die in the end of it, then it means I didn't push hard enough.
Right. But it's funny because every time I do an open workout, I'll do it twice. The first time I feel like death. The second time I don't feel as bad, and I beat myself by 2 rounds.
So it seems like you have a lot of evidence to prove to yourself that when it actually feels right, it's effortless. And then as soon as that's over, you go, well, I wonder if I pushed harder, if I would have done better.
Yeah, exactly.
So that there's the judge is insatiable. Its appetite is endless. So let's stop feeding that.
Yeah.
You kind of have to starve the ego.
Not
because it's bad, but because it doesn't serve us. Does that idea that you didn't do good enough on the workout, does that serve you?
No, not at all.
So what's another option?
Another option is, what did I learn during that workout?
That's great. What unfolded for me? What did I learn? How many connections could I have made through this workout? Like, how was the connection to myself? How whole am I now that I finished that workout? How connected do I feel?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something like I've been saying is like really being consumed less with the outcome and more with what did I learn during that workout. And I learned that holding a 1350 does not get you 9 rounds.
What did you end up getting? I got 8 rounds.
I got 8 and 11.
Nice. I think by the way, that's like a top 90th percentile score, like that's really, really good. Is it world class? No, but even if you were in the best shape of your life, you still wouldn't be able to do world class. So now what do we do?
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, sorry, like there's only one best person. and do we need to be that person? I don't know one way or the other, but what is going to make you feel complete?
Yeah.
The knowing that you just are learning, and and even if afterward you say, oh, I should have done this, you couldn't have done that beforehand without going through the process in the first place.
Right.
That makes sense?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Which is why anytime you get done with the workout, you're like, I want another redo at it.
Yeah, because now you know. Now you've learned. You've grown.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, I challenge you, Tyler. I challenge you to, and I challenge myself, to be honest with you. So we'll do this together, is be aware of what the feelings and thoughts that come up in the first workout. Because I had 3 feelings. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I have blah, 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 this, that, the other thing. And I didn't try to figure it out. I didn't try to convince. I was just like, okay, that's there. And I'm like, and I feel tired. I feel weak. I haven't worked out. I didn't work out in 2 weeks. I have a cold. I have a sinus infection. I'm not good at wall balls. My knee hurts. I'm not very good at rowing. Everything in the world. And we go, okay, cool. What's going to unfold? Because it's not about doing something. It's just about being. It's about being there and seeing what is trying to come up.
Yeah. So putting you in, that's what I was saying on, I did assault intervals 2 days ago, or no, yesterday. Yeah, I did assault intervals. No, today's Thursday. I did assault intervals on Tuesday, and there was, throughout each interval, my goal was to do 50 calories every 5 minutes, holding over 70 RPMs. So like something that would be similar to getting 200 calories in 10 minutes.
Yes.
And every first set, I was like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this. And then second set was like, that hurt more than it should. And then third set, it was like, oh my God, I don't know if I can hold on much longer. But like every time, it was like, but like when I got done with it, it was like that inner battle, that inner monologue. I was like so clear. It was like a moment where like the voices were so clear and I could remember it. Usually when I get done with the workout, like I don't remember anything, but in this workout specifically, I remembered the inner monologue very precisely. And I think it correlates to the amount of meditation I've been doing. And it made me feel, I felt, very satisfied afterwards, because every time I doubted myself, I was able to rise to the occasion.
Nice. That's cool. I think that's a good place to kind of leave off for today. So we have a lot to kind of talk about in the next few weeks as the Open unfolds. But I think that's a really cool place to pause for today.
Yeah, very cool. All right, Sean, where can people catch you and all your amazing content?
flockfitness.com and Flock Fitness on Instagram and on Facebook. If you want to reach out to me, Sean at CrossFitDelrabeach.com. Tyler, how do we reach you?
What about your YouTube?
My YouTubes, Flock Fitness.
Flock Fitness just released a really cool video on YouTube, didn't you? I watched it. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, I'll be probably putting it out next week. It is an amazing body weight training video. I'm going to be starting to do more and more of those for those who travel or work out on their own. Different flavor, different style, different feel than your conventional workout video. This is something that I've been working toward for like 10 years.
There we go. Yeah, let's get the people excited. So you can find me T_FLO_fitness, tflowfitness.com. And in a week or two, I'll be releasing info on a 90-day body transformation. Body transformation.
Still in the works, guys. Still in the works.
Still in the works, yeah. 90-day body transformation. It's called Ripped and Resilient. The idea being that we're going to get you into better shape, but we're also going to ingrain habits that will help you living longer and moving well into your 90s and 100s and get you doing what you want to do in your later years.
Sounds good to me, Tyler.
Look good, live longer. Look great, live longer.
Boom.
All right.
Mic drop. All right, Tyler, I love you, buddy. I'll talk to you next week.
Love you too.
Later.
Bye.